Hello, you're listening to Hugo Talks. How you doing? Here we have the toxic fake stream media working alongside the government in an attempt to destroy society, disguised as a debate on television, right? This is pure theatre. These are actors, okay? This is the GMB clown show. Let's have a look at it and pull this crap apart and show it for what it really is.
London's Mayor Sadiq Khan has warned commuters that staring can be a form of sexual harassment, along with catcalling and cyber flashing.
Which I had to get a definition of, so we'll talk about that in a moment. But posters like this, you can see over our shoulder there, are being used to warn public transport users across the country that intrusive staring will not be tolerated. So
that's the propaganda deep state agent Kate Garraway. Look at this poster, requested by Sadiq Khan, who along with the government are on a mission to destroy society, okay? They hired designers. They've gone to all of this trouble, and the reason is to alienate everyone. Look, they even say at the bottom, if you feel you've been stared at, text the police at this number. And of course, this scumbag mind control show puts on this fake debate, you know, to talk about it, to get this psychological attack aimed at the minds of the dumb masses.
So should staring be a crime?
We're joined by journalist and gender historian Dr. Zoe Strimple, who says the idea of staring being a crime is insane, and comedian and activist Kate Smithwaite, who says staring shouldn't be played down.
Now, this comedian, whoever she is, appears on that other insidious, toxic show, Jeremy Vine. Jeremy, the one with the black eye who falls arse over tit off his penny farthing, or so he says. She also appears on that. She's one of these rent-a-gobs for these fake debates on these pantomime shows.
What's so bad with staring, Kate?
Well,
come on.
I mean, and this is exactly the point, Adil. It's like, of course, there are plenty of people who do staring, and it's absolutely innocent. No one is suggesting you're going to gawk out the window at a seagull and somebody's going to be like, that seagull doesn't need your attention, thank you. What we're talking about is when somebody is deliberately staring at you, possibly, like, you know, heavy breathing, touching their leg at the same time, licking their lips.
Oh, well, hang on,
that's
a kind of... You're adding a few things.
She's being very particular there, ain't she? Staring, licking your lips and stroking your leg at the same time? Okay, yeah, what kind of crack is this one smoking?
On there, but...
Well, exactly, but that's the kind of circumstance. But which one are you going to say? Well, I don't think you should be allowed to touch your own leg. Well, you shouldn't be allowed to lick your own lips.
Right.
You shouldn't be allowed to breathe heavily. Well, none of those things individually are a terrible problem, but when somebody is doing it persistently and...
She's off her nut. Licking your lips, stroking your leg, none of them are individually a terrible problem. Not a terrible problem, but a problem nonetheless. This show is batshit crazy. Come on.
You know, it's easy to think, well, you know, I'm a grown-up and I can deal with this. But, you know, we know that it happens to schoolgirls on their way to school and things like this. It is a crime. Harassment is already a crime. If you know that what you're doing causes harassment, or if you objectively should know that it would cause harassment. So it's not a question of you're not allowed to, you know, look along the row and go, didn't that woman used to work with me? She looks familiar. It's a question of if you're doing this repeatedly for a long time in a way that is obviously intended to make people feel uncomfortable, then it is harassment, and there is the potential for something to be done about it.
Oh, it's so ridiculous. The premise here of her argument. She should be ashamed of taking the cash to play this dumb. How can you ever prove it? Someone is staring at you. Yeah? I mean, how? I mean, what are you going to do? You're going to contact the police? Oh, that person, they were staring at me at the time of 4 o'clock yesterday afternoon at the train station. Yeah? Can you do something about it, police? Please? What a pile. How can you prove it? It's just garbage.
Dr. Zoe Strimple, it can be intimidating, can't it, Steph?
Sure. I mean, a lot of things can be intimidating. My neighbour can be quite intimidating. In fact, she makes me feel deeply uncomfortable quite a lot of the time.
Why?
Did you stare through your window?
She has all kinds of mannerisms that I find. I mean, she's just a very unpleasant person. Her behavior. Anyway, there are a lot of things that are extremely
uncomfortable. She doesn't watch the show. It's okay.
Yeah, I'm just thinking she
man,
doesn't
wow.
watch the show.
What
Maybe that's a problem. But maybe that is her problem. But when I saw this poster, I thought,
pile of garbage
seriously, this is what TfL is now weighing in on. This is what Sadiq Khan is now weighing in on. Women are raped, and you know, very few of these, you know, rape allegations are actually followed up and then lead to prosecutions. Women are being groped, they are being physically assaulted, they're being murdered. They're having basic, you know, issues with violence that are like barely taken care of. And we're like, and now suddenly it's about staring. And, obviously a nasty, lechy stare is unpleasant, but there's limited resources. You can't fry every fish. This is not a fish that should be fried and amped up to the level that much more serious things are. And it's
Okay, so this person, whoever she is playing the other side of the argument, the side that makes more sense, okay? Just like you have the left, the right, the Tories, the Labour. This is the game. Throughout the media, they create a situation, then they create a debate. The arguments are then staged, and it's all about bringing the subject up in the arena of the public to psychologically condition the dumb masses to it.
not
Kate,
serious.
Kate, if it was a good-looking guy, somebody you were attracted to, and they were looking at you, would that be awful?
No. It doesn't like the idea that I'm like, oh well, as long as you're at least a 9.5, that's fine. No, it doesn't. In fact, the fact that they're staring already means I'm not interested. So we're already over that hurdle.
What is she talking about? If a good-looking guy is looking at her, someone she finds attractive, right? They're going to have to look, right, to know if they are attracted or not. Well, that's the first thing they have to do. What kind of crap are these people on? And she says if they are staring at her, then she immediately doesn't want to know. Get out of here. What is this one talking about? How are you going to fancy anyone without looking at them first, checking them out? Stupid.
It's not a but let's address the really important stuff here. Let's address the important stuff here. First of all, yes, there is a huge, huge problem with rape and very serious offences not being addressed. But it is not a question of women have to choose which crime we want dealt with. We should be able to live our lives free from both assault but also which of these crimes are we going to solve with posters?
On the other
Putting some posters up might stop people staring. Can we put up a poster that says please don't rape anybody? I don't think that's going to really help. So
I just
if we're going to do posters,
they're staring
sure,
and they're looking at somebody you're attracted to. I had a situation, 2008, I'm at an airport in Bodrum on my own, and I'm at the baggage reclaim. I see a really attractive lady the other side, and we caught each other's eye. And I think we ended up looking at each other. We were staring at each other. And as we were walking out...
Was it intrusive staring, or was it super welcome staring?
I don't know.
How are the grandchildren?
How would you describe it? I was staring at her, waiting for her to look at me. So she looked at me, and then as we walked out, we sort of ended up next to each other. I asked for a number. We ended up going out for dinner on my holiday.
Oh, right. Adil Ray's a bit of a player, bragging about picking up women at the airport. I pity that poor woman. By the way, this guy, this presenter... he is an actor and a comedian. I mean, when you look this guy up, it says actor, comedian first, before the presenter part. This is a theatre show. They all playing their parts to push the propaganda.
And that started with a stare.
So are you worried that you could have been accused of staring?
I think I could. I couldn't do that on. Yeah. I mean, But
I think that's why we're talking about harassment. And also, it's a little bit like when we're talking about people being seriously sexually harassed on public transport, it's a little bit sort of gaslighting to say, well, I once glanced at somebody and it was all rather nice. Because obviously, that's not what we're talking about. That's a small example. And if the person obviously reciprocates your attention, then obviously you're not being a problem. And that's...
Oh yeah, this one is a genius. These people get paid money to talk shite and sabotage communities with their toxic propaganda. How can you find out if it's reciprocated if you don't look in the first place? If you don't look that little bit longer in the first place? Gobshite.
Fine, but I think when you've got, a guy in his 60s staring at a 12-year-old schoolgirl leaning across the carriage and leering, then I don't think she's going to turn around and say, well, let's have dinner in Lanzarote. So
she's talking out of her backside. The posters are not saying, right? The posters are not saying old men do not stare at little children, right? The poster is saying people shouldn't be staring at each other because it's harassment. That's what they're saying, right? It's very simple, okay? This is just one fragment of the psychological attack that people in the UK and all around the world at the moment are being subjected to by their governments who seem to be intent on wanting to turn you into slaves. They don't want communities that are attuned to one another. They don't want people even talking to one another in communities. They don't want you to get together. They don't want you to communicate in your communities, because communities that work together, that have good communication skills, communities that support one another, are strong communities, okay? They don't want that. They want you alienated from one another. They want you separated. They want you walking around in a single file with blinkers on, too scared to look at another person, let alone communicating with them. They want you in your masks, not looking at one another, queuing up to swipe your passport to get into whatever place you're going to be going. Like good, obedient little slaves. This is all about demoralizing and splitting communities up. Everything these feckers on these clown shows do is about creating division so that you, the public, are not together, because they know that there are so many people that together, okay, they have immense power, people power. So this is just yet another strategy to get you all disconnected, because as in a war, the enemy is easier to pick off if they are all separated and disconnected and not communicating with one another. It's as simple as that. And these losers, these actors and comedian rent-a-gobs are all part of the theatre, the pantomime of promoting psychological propaganda to the dumb masses who are influenced subliminally by this just by watching it in the background. Okay? That's enough of it. Come and subscribe to HugoTalks.com if you haven't already, and I'll see you later.